Consumer behavior, relationship marketing, competitive strategy, and geopolitical analysis are his major areas of interest. An internationally known scholar, Dr. Jagdish has nearly 30 years of combined experience in marketing. Throughout his career, Professor has offered more than 1,000 presentations in at least 20 countries. He has also provided consulting services for numerous companies in United States, Europe, and Asia. His client list includes a lot of companies: AT&T, Bell South, Cox Communications, Delta, Ford, Motorola, and more. Currently, he sits on the board of directors of several public companies. It is an honor to have his presence today. I kindly invite Dr. Jagdish Sheth to share his words with us.
Can you see me? This is the typical problem of laptops, coming in the way. But I always start about my background, like Batra did. I went to the States in 1961 as a foreign graduate student, became a professor in 1963 at Columbia University, and they don't know how to pronounce our names. So I finished 50 years of teaching, but more importantly, I finished 51 years of marriage. You can applaud, that's fine. So they don't know how to pronounce our names, so one of my colleagues at Columbia University said, we'll give you a short name, Jag, like in Jaguar. And ever since that association, I've been dreaming of owning a Jaguar with a license plate, Jag's Jag. Why not, right? And the dream became a reality when I turned 16 years ago. So I'm 76 now. Do I look 76? That's because in marketing, the first thing we learn, it's all about packaging, right? True story, I have 2 grown-up children. They are married, all 4 of them conspired. I don't count my birthdays. I come from a generation where birthday is not as important to count. So I went out, got my local newspaper, and saw this beautiful Jaguar, top of the line, even the color I like, parked in the driveway with a handwritten license plate, Jag's Jag, happy 60th birthday. It was a rental car, unfortunately. So I'm still looking for my Jaguar, okay? I do want to mention that I'm going to be a little more serious about specific aspects of this technology. It is more transformative than anything we have seen in the world. I've been involved in the rise of the cellular technology in the US from the beginning, both commercialization as well as regulatory aspects. And at that time, our forecast was in 1985 that there will be no more than 950,000 users of cellular telephone worldwide. I think the forecast missed by a few billions. Today, we have more than 4 billion cell phones sold cumulatively. The largest markets, as people have talked about, are China number 1, India number 2, and India will cross more than 900 million cell phones. So the biggest revolution of the digital technology is not the computer or a CPU, mainframe computers, not even a PC, but it is actually the cell phone. Cell phone has become a great equalizer between advanced and emerging economies. And of course, now we have the internet, and 2015 will be a major year, in fact, in India, when by mandate, we'll have to roll out 4G, which is the broadband, the pipeline behind. It's just like building a super highway, and therefore you will have communities after communities living around the super highway in the virtual world. It's absolutely very fascinating and very realistic scenario. So let me show you some of the slides here. I hope I can do it. Can I get a remote? Or anybody? Okay, let's see, yes. If you take the business function, there are only 2 real business functions. And this is a saying from Peter Drucker. innovation and marketing. Technology, and especially disruptive technology, has always played a key role in shaping the future of innovation. We already know that stuff. We link innovation with technology in our mind. The Chancellor talked about, for example, the Industrial Revolution and how China and India missed the boat and all the stuff. And that's very true. Look at the digital cameras and how much they've made a change on Kodak as a company, which is a film-based space programs, and how much innovation has come from that technology. Mobile phones that we just talked about. However, we have not fully understood or documented the impact of technology on marketing, which is the other function. Impact of digital technology on marketing is as disruptive and transformative as innovation. So if you analyze the ages, there are two dimensions. One is the speed, other one is the scale. We have studied quite a lot about the scale, but not about the speed dimension, which I think is very important in the digital age. So you have the agricultural age with lower speed and lower scale. Everything is localized. You go to the industrial age where we have a little more speed but a lot more scale. And in the digital world, we have both scale and speed to a level that we have not imagined. I will do a little chart, a little more analytic stuff around here. This is the economics of the different ages. I work quite a lot for companies like TI, Motorola, etc., to transform them in the process. In the agricultural age, the total cost is only variable cost. Fixed cost is land, it is inherited, you never calculate. So what do you maximize? The best thing to maximize are resources, which is land and labor. So the bigger the landlord you are, land, like monarchs, and more feudal system, people work for you in servitude, the more powerful you are. So possession advantage is the key one around here, primarily. In the industrial age, this changes dramatically. Total cost is now both fixed cost and variable cost. So we invented the concept of marginal cost analysis and marginal pricing, where we said to maximize profits, we must have our marginal price, which is the price of the next unit we charge in the marketplace, equal to our marginal cost. And primarily you have a scale advantage here. That's all we know. And unfortunately, companies that began in the industrial age are having a difficult time transitioning to the digital age. No matter who you are, whether you are an IBM on the one hand, or you are a General Motors on the other hand, or Boeing aircraft on the third hand, it makes no difference. In the digital age, the total cost is all fixed cost. There are only two raw materials of the digital age, and that's chips and software. Today, if I wanted to build a new semiconductor factory, it'll be about $2.6 billion, both the design and the factory itself. So my first cost of the chip is $2.6 billion. The cost of my second chip would be zero. If you have a new software platform, let's say based for iPhone or iPad, the Apple platform, or a Google platform, the Android platform, it'll cost you billions of dollars to build those platforms, not the applications, but the platforms. And therefore, the software also, the first copy of, let's say, Windows NT, just as an improvement over Windows, will cost you $600 million. The cost of the second copy is nothing. Which means there is no maximization of profits. Marginal cost is zero, and therefore, does it mean you give it out free? And the answer is yes. So how do you monetize becomes a very key area around here. So the only thing you can maximize is cash flow. Cash flow becomes your key advantage around here, and what you need around here is scale and speed, which says that inventing something and then marketing yourself, selling and servicing is too slow. The best strategy is to invent and license the world as fast as you can. And that's a key paradigm shift around here. So let's just talk about the fundamentals of marketing. In marketing, we are always location bound and time bound. That's all marketing is all about. It's very local, both by location and as well as by time. So traditional marketing is all organized around time bound and location bound practices and theories. The digital world removes the location free, makes it free. I call it location agnostic. Time free, you're on time, online, all of your life, 24/7 essentially by and large. There are no selling hours, there are no servicing hours, it's all 24. And therefore digital marketing means anytime, anywhere, anyhow marketing, and that's a fundamental change from what we have been doing so far. So its impact. I wanted to focus on the 4 P's of marketing. If you're a marketing student, this is what you study essentially, or if you're a manager, this is what you practice. Digitized products, such as banking products, financial instruments, airlines, will be having the highest impact with the digital age, because I can now produce, store, distribute my product also, not just my commerce around that product primarily. Clearly see the fusion of the old and the new, which is very important to understand, that we might have the new retailers like Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal, whatever they are around here. But you also have, in fact, at the same time, old technology embedded with smartness. I worked on a project many, many years ago in the late 70s, early 80s on what is now becoming a reality called driverless car at General Motors in the tech center. You have a dual mode car, you drive the car around regularly as you do, but you get into a special highway that is built, and automatically once you enter the highway, the engine is shut off for pollution and noise reduction in large cities, no traffic jams, and the road is moving, the car is stationary, just like at Disney World. And you slot the cars at 35 miles per hour, or can go up to 70 miles during traffic hours, peak hours essentially. And you are exited automatically to take back the control of the car as if you are driving a regular car. And the issue arises quite often in terms of marketing aspects. Will the society, the consumers accept this model? And we have all kinds of sociological issues. For example, people, when they don't have to manage the car, as we do sitting in the back here, you start drinking. And when you are exited out, can you take charge, in fact, of your own car? Does it create more side effects on the society than the main effects? And I'll digress around here slightly on the side effects of this technology. I've been working about a decade on about 5 or 6 major side effects of the internet age or the digital age. This is very addictive. An addiction of mind, we don't know how to detoxificate. It's very much like gambling. We know how to remove or reduce the addiction of physical bodies like alcohol. So we are very much looking at the societal impact of addiction, digital addiction essentially. This is a technology where I can make artificial real. I can take things around. I'm working in the entertainment industry, the movie industry, where I don't need a producer or a director anymore. I can sit in front of an Apple architect, hardware and software, or a Sony. These are the 2 platforms for all of the image makers in the digital age. And I can sit in front of that one. If I'm a good storyteller, I can create a movie in less than 2-3 months, under $1 million, as good as any movie makers will make. I'm a producer, director, screenwriter, everything in one place. And change the disruptive paradigm completely about the cost of producing, for example, and the cost of distributing at the same time. Since I'm mixing and matching all of the public domain information or video content, I'm like a chef in a restaurant. I get a salt, it has a brand of its own. I get a sugar, it has a brand of its own. I may have packaged vegetables, semi-cut, brands of their own. Whatever the brands are, they all lose their intellectual property rights. There is no intellectual property rights ever to be protected in the digital age, and therefore all of the laws we have passed about patents, trademarks, copyrights, which are industrial age, are not sustainable from a marketing viewpoint in this digital age. Branding will become even more imaginative than ever before. Think about a company branding Apple or Yahoo, which was even a better shock. I mean, we never thought about Yahoo, and most of the branding practice comes from packaged goods companies. This is totally different, quite different. So we are now learning branding strategies from digital companies that can come into the packaged goods industry, Twitter, WhatsApp, all the stuff that you know. Online anything, absolutely the paradigm hereafter. So we will have whether it's work, which is online, play surprisingly online, dating online. Have you seen that thing? In fact, we have a conference in Bangalore next week on social media marketing, which is some aspect of this digital marketing by and large, where we have I think it's matrimony.com from here, from Chennai, right? Naukri.com, which is somebody from Delhi. They are coming and talking about how much we have seen matrimonials today, which used to be primarily in newspaper prints. It's all online. And it is as acceptable as ever before, and maybe better than ever before, which is interesting to find. And of course, shopping we have seen. More interestingly, I'm doing research on friendship online. We are shifting as a society from a kinship bonding to more and more friendship bonding. Let me tell you some of the things that we are finding fascinating. There are virtual communities out there, such as a Second Life, which began this whole thing. More interesting is called a Farmville, like a farmer. So here is a very senior executive woman, doesn't matter woman or man, rushing home to make sure that she arrives at home on time, and on her computer goes into the virtual community so that her cow gets milked in time. Isn't that interesting? So you don't need marriage anymore. You don't need a companion of human beings, which means everything we do today as a daily activity becomes peripheral, and the new digital world becomes the core, which is an absolute change. So these young people are involved in virtual communities in ways that we have not imagined, and that's your market, and how do you reach that market by and large? There is an app for everything. If you thought so far that people like Facebook, WhatsApp have made billions of dollars, you can be an entrepreneur today and come out with a new app for anything. Most mundane thing in life that you do, including, Batra, your example about toothpaste, which I loved it. You can have an app to show how to have a toothpaste properly put on your toothbrush, and there will be people who will download that app and follow that. Isn't that interesting? Daily activities that we learn through early childhood socialization from parents, from friends, from teachers, I can now put it as one more app. And this is limitless, in fact, entrepreneurship. If you thought industrial age created entrepreneurs, my estimate is that compared to industrial age, the digital age is about 100, maybe 1,000 times more, because there are no barriers to entry, either capital or technology. That's clearly change in the product side. More affordable and accessible products, very much so. But more interesting around is a reverse innovation. Things are happening in emerging markets first, and then they're going to advanced countries, as opposed to the traditional notion you invent there, then you localize to the local market, and ultimately emerging economies can afford it. I'll take the next area quickly because of the time. We are running quite short. The other major change, of course, is on promotion, the next P of marketing, which is advertising, sales, promotion. Social media is the one that everybody talked about. By the way, all social media put together now exceeds 3 billion users, overlapping, obviously. Think about that. Between Facebook, on the other hand, the Google thing, for example, of course, Twitter, if you add them together, it's about 3 billion population, which is mind-boggling to think about, bigger than most nations in population in size. Mobile advertising is the fastest growing medium worldwide, growing at about 35-40%, and traditional ad agencies are unable to migrate from a traditional ad agency from print to television to the mobile marketing or mobile advertising. Convergence of voice, data, video, this medium is very rich, and it has an enormous global reach at the same time. So RICH, rich. I can combine voice, video, data today. No other medium can ever do it, changing the paradigm enormously. And the next area is the one that I have written a paper along with my colleague, this virtual community I talked about. Remember, we know who we are, self-image, the I concept that you talked about. We have lots of possessions that says my identity, who I am. There are classic papers in psychology, which has been my study, where through our possessions we express who we are, which members we belong to, family members, community, etc., neighborhoods, or friends. In this one now we are extending to having digital products as our possessions as opposed to physical products. In fact, we are finding that people are more engaged in a digital automobile than they are in a real automobile. They are creating avatar of their own. I create my own image of what I would like to be. So all the aspirational marketing we used to talk about, I don't need a marketer to tell me, I do it myself. Huge paradigm shift around here, and it's very fascinating to watch. A blurring of advertising, promotion, which are different dollars, and word of mouth influence all now begins to blur together. So we don't know which delivers what, as we used to have a very clear, return on marketing dollars, etc. And now the last one is a very interesting one. I've been dabbling with this one. Marshall McLuhan was a very famous communication theorist from Canada, and he coined a phrase that medium becomes the message. And he was absolutely right so far, but now for the first time, the message becomes the medium. If I have a message, I will create my own medium. I don't need anybody else's medium. I don't need a television network to tell me how to distribute that content. On the web, I can do it any way I want. So this is a very fundamental change if you are in the media side of the marketing by and large. Place, location. Remember, we always taught in location retailing, it's location, location, location. Today, I'm not so sure it is still relevant. Because I can have virtual locations anywhere in the world, as many as I want. So global reach, which is the other big dimension, began with eBay. Remember eBay as a trading platform. I have bought Indian antique from an Australian store, never knowing where they are located, trusting eBay as my arbitrage trust factor. In other words, I can exchange or I can get things. I've got that product with me. It's one of those bronze statues, nice little thing. Interestingly, the trader does not know me. I don't know the trader. It's an art gallery of some sort. Think about that. Whereas in the agricultural age, the milkman came to house every day, as they still do in India, brings the cow or the buffalo. Remember, that's how I grew up in Chennai, having milk every day essentially brought in. And there was a conversation. The neighborhood provision store person knew everything about my family. It's a multi-generational relationship, all coming to a discontinuity. And to personalize to the Indian setting, I find fascinating that the generation gap in India is now only 8 years apart. The older sister is unable to relate to the younger sister in not only lifestyle but in values. That's mind-boggling change. It's moving very, very rapidly. In fact, I've written an article called The Call Center Couple. So these are young people who meet in college nowadays, rather than the typical parents deciding who you will get married. And they would like to start their own family. First thing they want to do is not to live with parents. Have you noticed that? Unless there is no way they can buy a housing. They're the first-time buyers of everything. They're the first-time buyers of cell phones, two-wheeler, motors, the typical automobile. And they are the first-time buyers, in fact, of a house. Affordable housing is a major industry emerging. First-time buyers of everything, appliances, television just goes on, which is very key. And one of the key consequences is that this young generation does not know the typical homemaking skills. The biggest outsourcing is not IT services from America or the world into India for companies like Wipro, Infosys, etc., but the biggest outsourcing is at home. They don't know how to cook, They don't know how to take care of childcare. They don't know how to clean, etc. All of that is becoming now what the homemaker did was never added in the GDP calculation. Now they buy commercially, and therefore it is a part of the economic growth, essentially. Mind-boggling change. In America, for example, out of 3 meals a day, we only eat 1.5 meals at home, 1.5 meals we eat out. Lunch is eaten out, and breakfast is eaten out, basically. And the other meals we eat at home, fully 50% is ready to eat, not ready to serve. So all the retailers in fast foods have to have a home delivery, for example, like a Domino Pizza, which pioneered the industry, etc. Massive change around here. Our demand-driven procurement. You cannot now make products, store them in warehouses or in the stores and wait for the customers to come. So you start the reverse process by saying, once the demand arises, can I make those products? So I have just-in-time production, just like just-in-time delivery, essentially. E-commerce on mobile devices is pretty much here. And I think that's going to grow much faster in India than we thought, because the hassle of doing other way is just too hard. Time hassle, traffic hassle, the retailer is not trained properly how to serve. So for example, I grew up in Tinagar, and during Pongal time, there is no way you can ever drive, let alone walk in that area. Have you seen all the rural population comes to buy saris and jewelry? It's a mind-boggling change. That reminds me of adding something that I did not build because it's not marketing per se, but I think our traditional notions of who is poor, who is rich is absolutely misleading. Remember, we have this data that say if you're earning under $1 a day, $365 a year, you are extreme poverty. United Nations talks about. $2 a day is the poverty level. It's very fascinating. If you look at the same people, they're very wealthy at the same time. I have data, 1950 to year 2000. We have imported legally and illegally 1,000 metric tons of gold. Think about that. So we have 50,000 metric tons of gold in this country, paid by cash by somebody. Only 25% of that is made into jewelry for exports. So 75% of that 50,000 metric tons is in India someplace. 70% of that 75% is exactly in the same people who are declared below the official poverty level. The wealthy families invest in the stock market. They invest in a banking instrument. The poor, the first thing a villager woman would like is another sari that she can take go to the temple or a festival or a wedding to make her husband proud of the family. The second thing she wants is jewelry. That wealth is all here. You know the amount, how much it is? It is $1.5 trillion accumulated over time. Of course, we pass on as a part of the dowry system or giving to the daughters, etc., in succession planning, etc., but that wealth is floating around. So they are not poor as we think, interestingly. So we have to think differently about these markets than what traditionally the Western education has taught us about these markets. So e-commerce on mobile devices and online education and health will become much more necessity because access is a problem and affordability is a problem. In fact, I think at our conference later this week, I think very fascinating, we have the gentleman Ganesh, I think is his name, who created the Tutor Vista. Remember Tutor Vista is an online helping high school students in advanced countries. And it's interesting, about 3,000 teachers who train in math and science online to people in Western countries, especially the US, are all in rural population here. So on the one hand, we think rural population has no education capability. On the other hand, you have world-class teachers. High school level, we are talking about. Very massive change. So we have to look at these contradictions in a very different way. And I know because of the time, I'll move a little faster. The last one is the price. In India, the middlemen is about 11 middlemen are involved from the producer to the consumer. This technology compresses, disintermediation takes place, and you only have a few and you have a disintermediation and a reintermediation, and therefore price arbitrage begins to go out of the window pretty much, as we have seen with e-tailers primarily. So real time and dynamic pricing of everything. Who said stock market alone will be dynamic pricing? So airlines, when they started charging real time, which people were shocked. Why should I have my retail products priced as the same way, either on a 24-hour cycle or a 1-month cycle? I can have as the customer is walking by. If you have not watched a movie, watch a movie called Minority Report. It was produced about a decade ago. That really shows you where the future of marketing is going. In fact, the technology, there are 2 technologies which are shaping the 21st century: biological sciences and nanotechnology. And today I can embed a micro, very tiny chip in my body, and I don't need any device. Think about that. I've done that in the automobile, for example. It's called telematics. I can put a server and a switch in the automobile, in the back trunk, so the telephone and the IT sites converge. Automobile is the first place where I can converge voice, video, and data. And now my mobile car or a two-wheeler or a truck or a lorry becomes my base station. I don't need towers at all. I can create a real networking out of the whole thing using mesh technology. So the biggest change agent may not be the home or the office, but maybe the automobile. And all it takes about is 5 major automobile manufacturers to come together and come out with a common standard. You might have heard about OnStar as a company created by General Motors, which is a lead actually, has licensed Honda the technology. I have the technology embedded, so there is no cost of additional cost. It's a part of your car, just as we get AM, FM radio station, for example, or a, CD music or a VCR or videos, whatever it is, it's very possible. So we are watching the whole scenario of machine-to-machine communication. It's very fascinating. It's all real, by the way. I can have my car in my garage at home, constantly communicating with my refrigerator, and my refrigerator tells my car that milk is running low, so I don't need a wife to tell me milk is running low, and I can pick it up. That car actually communicates in my office because it's sitting in the parking lot someplace. It's always with me someplace, which says I don't need a PC device. I don't need a cell phone even eventually. Communication happens, and it may be even embodied in the body physically is where we are seeing. Have you seen the wearable technology, digital technologies and all of the wearable things? That is just the start of the whole thing, and it will be commercialized pretty soon. So it has a huge price impact. I'll take the last slide and cut short the presentation. In addition to the 4 Ps of marketing, digital technology will also impact on market research. I sit on the board of a data analytics company because we know how to do market research on numerical data, primarily data analytics. But when you have text messages from Twitter, for example, the econometricians have no idea how to analyze the data. Statistics stops there. So the people who analyze our data are mostly linguists or cognitive psychologists. Totally changes the paradigm. It'll also, customer support function will change, and also customer feedback, which I think Chancellor talked about, or somebody, I think you talked about real-time feedback. It happens, before you even have something done, answer is pretty much ready essentially, which is interesting. Marketing as we know today will become peripheral, and the digital marketing will become the main. In fact, that's a general law, more powerful than Einstein's equation, more predictable. Anything we do as a necessity, when we give it up, always comes back as a hobby. Hunting during the hunter and gatherer days, fishing, gardening, baking breads. Are you with me? Today the hottest cable channel in America is a food channel. Food was a daily thing we did. Nobody talked about it. But today we are making ordinary chefs extraordinary celebrities. Isn't that interesting? I think food channel is popular here also. Isn't that the case? It's a mind-boggling, so it comes back as a hobby. I did a whole study for Whirlpool Corporation in 1983, and we brought Whirlpool here also in the process for other reasons. and it was kitchen of the future. It's very interesting. I do demographic work in the US, and I think it's happening. All of us are becoming what I call a roommate family. Kitchen is like a commons area. Everybody comes and goes. We are actually having fewer people in the house with much bigger kitchen. Now, for the first time, both men and women, wife and husband, have a common hobby, kitchen. Husband used to be in the garage with a bench, you know, the physical stuff in the US, and wife would be like a kitchen-oriented. Remodeling costs are fantastic in the kitchen area, right, primarily. But that kitchen gets high-tech. Security devices are in kitchen. Telephone is in the kitchen, interestingly, and internet comes in the kitchen now. So if you extrapolate, what's happening is that kitchen is becoming not a smelly, messy place. Remember, in India, we still construct houses or homes or apartments where you have a separate kitchen area, where the maid and those guys will be there. That goes away now. It becomes one great room that I customize the way I want it. And everybody comes, eats on their own. None of us eat together anymore. It's a rare treat when the whole family eats together even once a week. And everybody, after eating, what happens? Everybody goes in their own little private space. I have pictures of my grandchildren. Everybody sitting together in a sofa, text messaging to somebody, and sometimes they're text messaging each other 2 feet or 3 feet apart. That's mind-boggling. You know, it's very interesting. That's the new consumer reality. So the roommate family concept impacts enormously in the marketplace. So examples are hunting, fishing, baking bread, gardening, and cooking. So I have forecasted, since we don't know how to do house cleaning anymore, right? And we have the maid services. In the US, maid services are coming, but it's expensive. Childcare, we have to do outsourcing. The biggest cost is childcare. So who does cleaning in the house? We are only 2 of us, by the way, as grandparents now. We live just ourselves, my wife and I. And the question comes, who cleans the house? So I deliberately invite friends once a month. Not because I need their friendship, but house gets cleaned. Either I set aside, you know, magazines, we all move around before they come, or my wife does it, or somehow we get it done so house looks neat and clean, which is interesting. So I've forecasted, if gardening can come back as a hobby, cooking can come back as a hobby, you will see some of the bestseller books on how to clean your house. Okay? Spring cleaning kind of stuff, which is fascinating. It's always going to happen. I think we are underestimating. So I'll just leave around here, and thank you very much.